this will affect you, and this is stuff that you absolutely need to know, because there's nobody in the world right now immune from some of the things that we are seeing and encountering through the internet. So unless you plan to keep your children away from the internet and away from any child with access to the internet, these are things that you need to know. So we're gonna jump in and we'll do Q&A at the end. But I really wanna talk to you about some of the things that are facing our youth on a daily basis. And the more you know, the more that you can be equipped in supporting them, supporting your grandkids, supporting in prayer or practically. So we're going to talk about, well, I'm going to focus on two things specifically: the impact of pornography on our world and sex trafficking and what that looks like today. You are welcome to take pictures of any of my slides, except the next one, because the next one has some friends in it. But other than that, you're welcome to. At the end of the night, if you want more information, it's over there. I just started a new company called Escalate the Conversation, and that is just my sole purpose, is to escalate this conversation. The reality is our youth are not doing well. According to so many experts, we are in a mental health crisis that we have never seen before, and almost all of it can be linked back to our smartphones and to our children's access to smartphones. Let's get into it. Let's find out what it is that they're facing so that we know how to parent and love them through it. And so where am I coming from and why am I passionate about this topic? About maybe 25 years ago, I was traveling through Southeast Asia, and over there you just see the sex trade. It's very upfront, very out in the open, and I was determined to be part of the solution in fighting sexual exploitation. I came back to Calgary, and I sent out my resume, all these frontline agencies, and they all turned me away because I didn't have a degree in social work. And then somebody right downtown here sent me to Dominique. You have to meet Dominique. She's the founder of Servants Anonymous Society, which later became Reset. But anyways, I worked right over here in Inglewood for a number of years with survivors of sexual exploitation and human trafficking. And then for 2 wonderful years, I got to be the house mom in the frontline emergency recovery home. And so for 2 years, I had 43 roommates, women that were fleeing the sex trade. And they were the ones that really taught me about the sex trade and also about the impact of pornography, again, how it's connected to sexual exploitation. Fast forward about 15 years after that, smartphones came out, and I saw all the dangerous men that used to purchase these women and the very, very dangerous men that used to own them and control them. I saw them all move online and basically be given full access to our children. And at that time, we didn't know the harms of these devices, and we freely gave them out to all our children. Merry Christmas, happy 10th birthday. And we didn't know then what we know now. Okay, so give yourself a break if you gave your kid a smart device at 8, 10 years old. We didn't know how harmful they would be. We know now. There is significant data, significant research, and we're at a point right now where we need to just pause everything, assess the data. We might need to backtrack. Some families need to backtrack. Some families might need a full-on digital detox, starting with the parents. And then we need to reassess how we're going to raise our kids going forward. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. Okay, so let's jump in and let's understand pornography today. It is not what it used to be. Don't even imagine that.
abused and killed the way you did others?
Listen, I'm no social scientist, and I haven't done a survey. I mean, I don't pretend that I know what John Q. Citizen thinks about this. But I've lived in prison for a long time now. And I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them was deeply involved in pornography, without question, without exception, deeply influenced and consumed by an addiction to pornography.
Porn is addictive. We know the amount of dopamine that is released in the brain. And then over time, regular viewers will be desensitized, needing more and more and more in order to get that same rush. That's why, like, we're up against such a big battle. It's so pervasive, and we have to protect our children from this. Trigger warning on the next slide. It's just words. I'm just going to make sure that child doesn't come in. So there's a kid at the door. Just Val, make sure he doesn't come into this talk, okay? Yeah. Just gently. Yeah. Just at the worst time. I did not let my daughter come tonight. She wanted to come, but she's 17. I'm like, no. So just in words, I want to describe to you a typical porn scene. This is not on the dark web. This is not, hard to find. This is what kids will find if they're curious, which they all are. They type in sex in Google. Maybe they type in porn. Maybe they type in boobies. I don't know. But this is what they will stumble on within 2 clicks right there, okay? This is not an exaggeration. This is an average, typical mainstream porn today. Let that sink in. I'll tell you when I change it. Look at the bottom there, 40%. 40% of the videos on there are that. All right, changed it. That's what we're up against, you guys. That's why it's so urgent that we understand this, because we have to do everything in our power to prevent our children from seeing this, or if anything, delay. Like, they're going to see it eventually. It is a reality. They will see it eventually. We have to delay it as long as humanly possible. That means doing everything in our power to delay their first exposure. Studies show that the later that first exposure is, actually the less harm it will do in their lives. And they're talking it's so sad right now, but the average age kids are stumbling upon that is 8 to 10 years old. And so the experts are just like, if we can at least delay till 10, which is so devastating, but that's what we're looking at. Now, we always, the media likes to say, like, oh, these women are so empowered and stuff like that. This is the reality. The average woman who's being used in porn only lasts 3 months, and they're leaving with this kind of trauma. Nobody wants to be there. They are not there by choice. The few that might have so-called chosen it are there because of a lack of choices, and almost all are victims of childhood sexual abuse, which took away their choice right there. So the reality is no one is there by choice. If we see what's being done to them, like that previous slide, come on, who's freely choosing that? They're there because of a lack of choices. So it's really important for us to understand that, especially when our culture is so pro-porn and loves to endorse it and say that it's so empowering. These women love it. They choose it. Really, they're there because of a lack of choices. When our children stumble upon it, their undeveloped brain is flooded with these powerful sexual images, causing a physical and emotional overload. The child is powerless. This is from neuroscience. It is absolutely impossible for them to resist this kind of stimulation. So our children, there's nothing that can prepare them for those scenes. Nothing. And they will naturally be curious. They may naturally be aroused. Doesn't mean they're bad. Doesn't mean they're like dirty kids or anything like that. It is a natural biological reaction, which makes it even more confusing and even more unfair. That's why we have to prevent their exposure as much as humanly possible and delay as long as possible. Now, the porn industry is out to find your children. They are actively trying to find children. The younger that they can get kids exposed, they know that they will have a lifetime customer. And the porn industry is only driven by profit only, profit over everything. And so they don't care the age of the consumer. They just want more consumers to stay on as long as possible and to come back year after year after year. So they are after our kids. And so are predators, okay? So our predators, sexual predators, the porn industry, they have infiltrated cartoons, YouTube, the media, social media, wherever your kids are, there are predators there, and the porn industry is there as well. And what they're trying to do is desensitize your children, our children, to these sexual images, so that, one, they're more curious, they're drawn into it, but also they won't think anything is that wrong with it. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. And so when they see these things, like the two games there is Roblox, which millions of children are on Roblox, but they don't realize that very quickly they get desensitized to these images and messaging. And so that's why you can never leave your child alone on YouTube. You cannot leave them alone on Roblox. It's not a babysitter. They're full of predators. And you don't know, 1 minute, like if you allow your child a device and they know how to type in Elsa, this is what they could stumble upon. And they do. There are so many porn sites that use Disney characters or misspelled URLs that kids might type up. So that's why no headsets, no screens in their bedroom ever, no screens down in the basement. Like, it is always within your eyesight and your hearing. It's so important, you guys. Another way porn is affecting our entire world is that, unfortunately, teens and tweens are using it as sexual education. Maybe parents aren't talking to them. Maybe they're not getting educated on what is sex, especially, what is God's design for sex. They're probably not hearing it enough. And besides, let's face it, this generation, they want to know anything, they go to Google, right? They don't look out the window to see what the weather is. They're like, everything is here. And so that's what they're doing. But, they're not expecting what I just showed you. They have no idea. Again, nothing can prepare them for what they're going to be assaulted with. And that's so unfair to them. Like, that is our fault as our generation. We have let this happen, and we have allowed somehow there to be 370 million pages of hardcore violent pornography. And so our poor children do a search because they're curious, and then they stumble upon this violent, hardcore porn. And I should mention, 90% of porn is violent. 90. So that's mainstream porn. It's not like a small niche. It is the majority of what you just saw. And so what's happening with our youth is the boys especially are learning. They're observing and learning that behavior. So, I'm supposed to be aggressive. I'm supposed to be selfish. I'm supposed to be violent. That's what's expected of me. And the girls are internalizing what they're seeing on porn, that I can't say no, that I have no rights, that I can expect violence, that violence is part of sex. Like, we see that and we're like, that's sexual assault. That is a crime scene. But our poor youth who have not been educated are seeing that, and they're believing that that is what sex is supposed to be. And then they are copying that amongst their peers. And so we have a huge problem with sexual violence among our youth. not only are they doing it, they think it's okay. Like they've adopted porn sex as regular sex. And girls think it is sexy or hot if they have bruises on their neck because they've been strangled. They call it choking, but it's strangulation. If you search up, please don't, but the youth search up the hashtag choking, and you'll get thousands of videos on Snapchat or TikTok on girls showing off their bruises. So not only have they bought the lie, they think it is it's okay and it's trending. That's very disturbing. Trying to convince them that it's wrong, it's a crime, is very difficult because we're going against culture now. There are songs, again, another reason for no headsets. Do you know what they're listening to? There are songs that sing about strangulation. One song that came out, 99 million views on YouTube, and making it cool and fun and sexy. And our kids are being brainwashed into believing this is the way it's supposed to be. And our young children, talk about brainwashing, we have it's such a sad reality. Our kids are seeing it, and then as children learn by observation. We know that. They watch us, they do what we do, and they're watching porn, and they're acting it out on the children they have access to. Who is that? Siblings, cousins. Yeah, this is a rising problem that we have to be aware. This is what happens. And so we need to know what we're up against so that we can come alongside. And do not think that video games are a safe place. They are not a safe place. They're full of predators. They're very sexualized. They often endorse violence against women. And look at this quote from Dr. Jay Stringer from his book Unwanted. Once many children reach puberty, the neural networks established for video game addictions leave them vulnerable to addiction to pornography. The neurological grooves created for video games gets filled by the next addictive process. So they're getting used to this high hitting dopamine. When they hit their puberty and teens and tweens, the only thing that can replace or compete with that high, as we saw with the dopamine chart, is pornography. So be careful on video games. Dr. De Casaretti, who's a leading researcher in this field, was asked this question: what will our 11-year-old boys be like if there's no intervention, right? And this is his answer. He's going to be cruel. He will have unrealistic expectations. I think relationships are going to fall apart. I predict divorce rates are going to increase significantly because of deep-rooted unhappiness. We have to fight for our boys and for our girls and their right and ability to have healthy, beautiful, reciprocal relationships. Our boys are fully capable of every emotion that our girls have: kindness, tenderness, selflessness, gentleness, sensitivity, love, affection. Our boys are capable of all these things. But they get hooked on porn, and porn will rewire their brain and change who they are by literally changing their brain, as we saw. So our battle is for our kids, and our battle is for their future relationships. And we have to do better than we're doing right now. We are failing our kids, you guys, by giving them devices without restriction, just like make good choices is not enough. We have to do more. Tonight will be, if you haven't done anything yet, then tonight is a great way to get started through education. A couple more points on porn, actually maybe my last point. Porn is directly connected to human trafficking, and human trafficking is directly related to pornography. These two industries go hand in hand. You cannot separate the two. So porn feeds the sex trade with demand, and human trafficking, the sex trade feeds the porn industry with the supply, which are the victims and the content. And I'll explain that a little bit better here. So I tried to chart out all the research to show you clearly how these two are interconnected. Okay, so just quickly, I'm going to go through these. So number one, we know that porn builds tolerance. It changes our brain, and we need more to get that high. As you build tolerance, for many, I'm not saying every single person that accesses porn is going to want to go and purchase a sexually exploited or trafficked woman, but almost every single one who goes out and purchases a sexually exploited woman definitely was inspired and motivated by an addiction to pornography, just like Ted Bundy said. After a while, just looking isn't going to be enough. They will want to act it out. That's how their brain, it's not like they have a different brain than we do. Like, that is what happens. And so that's often where they go and purchase somebody because it's easy for them. Like, it's just too easy, especially now with the internet. You can just order somebody. And so that's how they act out, and so the direct connection to trafficking. Porn is used to advertise women for sale, so we know that all the pimps are putting pictures of all their women out there, of course, free advertising. Porn educates desire, so it shapes these men. And recently, there was an article that came out, and it was interviewing all these men that were caught with CSAM. CSAM is child sexual abuse material. It's the correct term for what we used to call child porn. So CSAM is the correct, more accurate term. It asked all these men, like, how did you get into this? And for many, they don't know. Like, that's not what they were looking for. That it wasn't what they were in pursuit of. You know, they just started with that first page, that first website, and then as these websites are designed, they pull you deeper, deeper, deeper in. And this one man said, I didn't even search it out. I just kind of kept clicking next, 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 because porn sites are just giving you one video after another. Remember, 169 years worth of video is available in a couple of clicks. And so he was just going next, 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 next. And one of the top search terms on Pornhub is teen, and they say it's 18 and 19, so they say it's legal. But there's a lot of child stuff on regular porn sites. And so, like, this one particular guy, he's like, I didn't search it out. I just clicked next, 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 next. They look on his computer, and it's over 200 images of children. He just, like, didn't even catch on because he was just like next, 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 next. So it's really a slippery slope, and that's why, like, we have to support and come alongside our men to support them and help them and to have open conversations. And, like, just so you know, like, I'm not angry or I don't hate anybody that accesses porn. Like, I understand the pull and the draw. Like, why not? Like, it seems so easy, and yet I know what it does to people, how it changes them, and so that's why we're so needed to be shoulder to shoulder with these guys and to help them recognize and identify what's happening so we can support them. You're wondering why Ukraine is on there? So like I said, the porn industry shapes the sex trade industry. They're hand in hand. You cannot detach the two. And so anything that's happening globally, especially if there's a crisis, those search terms will be trending on Pornhub. So right after Russia attacked the Ukraine, what's trending on Pornhub? Ukraine refugees, Ukraine girls, Ukraine teens, Ukraine rape, trending on Pornhub. And so if you're getting, 193 million viewers a day, demand shapes supply. And so the porn industry is going to ensure to meet that supply. So who's waiting alongside the border of Russia, or of all the surrounding countries and the Ukraine? Trafficking recruiters, of course, and people offering jobs for women and children with no experience needed, and then boom, it's up on Pornhub forever. And so that's how it educates desire. It's used in abuse. It's used to show victims, to desensitize them, and then it's taken of actual abuse now and uploaded freely and easily on mainstream porn sites. And then the bottom two in purple there is how it's affecting our children, and I'll talk a little bit more about the left-hand corner there in a second, but I better move on. This is a growing problem. It is happening here in our province. It is thriving here in our province. We need to talk about this more in the church. We have to address these issues. And when it makes the news, it's too late, right? We need to get to these guys because they feel out of control. Like they probably feel very isolated, very alone, full of shame, yes, no one to talk to. That's wrong. They should have someone to talk to or somebody to ask them about things that they struggle with. So as an example of how it escalates, this is Jacob in this documentary here, and he's a firefighter. When he was caught with CSAM, child sexual abuse material, he had over 9,000 videos and images on his computer. And he said the wrongness of it, the illegalness of it, is what was appealing. Again, desensitization, building tolerance, needing more and more and more to get that original high. That's what's happening. And it's happening to more and more men, like more and more often. These men that are searching out child sexual abuse material, they're not a specific type of men. They're not a unique group. It's just happening more and more to regular guys because of how the porn industry is designed. And unfortunately, these men are acting this out. So according to Gail Dines, who is a leading researcher, from the time of the first download of child sexual abuse material to acting that out is 1 year. Only 1 year. Because it's changing the brain, it's desensitizing them, and over time, images are not enough. Right now, our wonderful country of Canada is number 4 in the demand for live stream sexual abuse out of the Philippines. We are number 4 in the world. We are now demanding live abuse, sending funds through PayPal. We're creating a whole bunch of child sexual abusers in the Philippines, which is really devastating. They're doing it for money, and they're paying per abuse. That is how bad this has gotten, and that this is where we have sunk down to. And the only reason we're number 4 is because our population is less than the number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's the US, the UK, Australia, Canada. So this is happening a lot. Shifting gears, I want to talk to you about trafficking because it's closer to your home than you think. All right, I'm going to talk about just 2 specific kinds. Again, you need to know if you have children in your lives that have access to the internet and who have a smart device. The definition of sex trafficking is important for us to understand because we often think about, that the movie Taken or the white van and, being smuggled. It's so rarely that way. They say 2% is actual abduction. It's much more subtle than that. And it doesn't have to, there's no trafficking, like no movement has to take place. It can happen from a girl's bedroom or a boy's bedroom. So when a sex act with a minor is commercialized, or if that sex act was induced by force, fraud, or coercion. Traffickers can be boyfriends, friends, an online friend, family members, but almost always someone they know. That's why victims of trafficking rarely know that they're being trafficked, because it doesn't look like trafficking. I'll explain a little bit about that later. And through our social media apps, we have made the life of a trafficker very, very comfortable, very easy. They used to have to work a lot harder to find a victim. Now they just go on social media and they could be working 100 or 200 vulnerable kids at one time, and it's just so easy for them, especially if those kids have not been educated and informed about the dangers associated with their games and their social media apps. So don't assume that children's video games are safe places. Absolutely not. Anywhere our children gather, there will be sexual predators there. It is a guarantee. So I want to talk to you about the online friend and how trafficking can happen through an online friend. Our kids may or may not realize, but anybody can be anybody online. It's so easy to make a false account. We have apps that can change your age very easily. So you cannot believe anything that you see online, unfortunately. And so what these predators do, this could be a trafficker or a sexual predator. So first of all, they're hanging out where our children are hanging out, and they're looking for kids specifically who don't really have a lot of parental involvement, who may be spending hours at a time on a game. They're also looking for kids that have a specific unmet need. So that need could be affirmation. That need could be a father figure in their life. That need could be attention. It could be that they're poor and the child would like some more gaming dollars. And so whatever it is, they're looking for that need. And the phishing picture is to show you that the traffickers and predators, remember, they have a whole bunch of lines on the internet, and they're just seeing which kid's gonna bite. Okay, so again, working 1 to 200 kids at a time. So that's stage 1 is luring. Stage 2 is grooming. A child has taken that bite. That bite could be a like. That bite could be a friend request. That bite could be like a comment on their post. And specifically, they're looking for kids that are already struggling with life. So say your child is struggling with maybe their body image. They don't feel so good about their body. And so they might go onto a page that is talking about dieting or weight loss or whatever, and they might type in a comment onto that post. And then the predator sees that comment and, oh, they're struggling with body image and weight. Okay, which means low self-esteem. Okay, they reach out to them, friend request, hello, whatever. The child responds, and then they start to meet that need. Oh, you're so cute. You're so beautiful. Like, oh, you're amazing. And so in the grooming stages is building trust, building relationship, building friendship, and meeting that unmet need. They're so sly. That's why kids and youth don't recognize trafficking, because it's often a friend or a boyfriend or somebody that makes them feel really good. And then what happens? One of two things can happen. One is a request for photo or videos, and often the conversation will be moved to a more private app, which is usually Snapchat or Discord. And then where they have privacy, the conversation turns sexual, and they may start to exchange images and or videos, and that's what the online predator is after. Or they may ask the child to meet in person. Meet in real life, MIRL. If you're ever checking chats, you check for, those kinds of things, MIRL, meet in real life. And it happens more than we like to think. This happened last summer? Yeah, like about last summer. Same thing, a young girl, I happen to know her situation, from a, difficult home, not much parental involvement, has her own device, has total freedom on that device, lives down in the basement, so no accountability, no transparency, no one's checking, no one's taking that device at night to make sure she's not on it all night. None of that's happening. So she's on it all night, trying to fill that unmet need, meeting all these strangers online, and a guy asks if you wanna, I'm sure they exchanged photos already, but anyways, asks to meet in real life. And she says yes, because it's maybe she considers him her boyfriend by that point. Remember, kids are dating online these days. Like, they're not even meeting in real life to consider that that's their girlfriend or boyfriend. And so she agrees to meet with him. Miraculously, probably due to prayers from people like you, was it now 2 a.m.? I think it was 2 or 4 a.m. In the morning, she is waiting downtown Didsbury for this guy to show up. And he goes through a stop sign. Normally, that's not a problem in Didsbury, but somehow the police were there and stopped him for going through the stop sign. The girl was 10 meters away. Yeah, amazing. And I just recently heard more of the story. He had another girl waiting for him in Sylvan Lake that he was on to after this one. So, like I said, these predators have hundreds of lines out there looking for the easy take. So we have to be a step ahead of them. Now, we need to understand the role of social media in grooming our children and over-sexualizing our children very, very young. We have to understand the role of social media. Because, like those of us who grew up without social media, we would not be as at risk as our youth today. Our youth today are being groomed by our culture and desensitized. That's why they don't see the red flags. So here's a innocent account of a public account, let me say, of a 13-year-old girl on Instagram. And kind of some typical posts and stuff, nothing too wild. 3 years later, I just tracked her feed, I noticed the pictures becoming very sexual. And that's gonna happen when you have a public account on Instagram. You're seeing all these other beautiful girls that you're trying to, like, maybe not purposely compete with, but you are. You're seeing all these women, they're very sexual, they've got all the body parts. And so young girls are seeing that and think, oh, if I want to be beautiful, if I want value, I need to look like this. And that's why our kids are being so overly sexualized. And you can see it in their behavior and in their dress and in their attitude. And on social media, you can see it plain as day. Very sexual images. Half of that looks like underwear. And then that kind of a face, right? Like that come and get me kind of face. And then I looked on one very sexy post, and I could identify all the middle-aged men commenting on her post. This is nothing against middle-aged men, but they should not be following and commenting on a 16-year-old post how hot she is. And like for that girl, it's giving her dopamine to get all those likes and all those compliments, which is only gonna fuel her even more. And then I noticed this one here, when did you become so DOM? That, I had to look that up, like what does that mean? And that refers to like the bondage and dominance, BDSM, right? That kind of bondage material, I don't know what you call it, but Dom is the dominant person in the BDSM content. And so he was like encouraging her and saying, as a 16-year-old child, she's looking like she wants to dominate somebody sexually. Like, that's on social media. That is regular stuff. And even if your kids aren't posting that stuff, they're seeing it and they're becoming desensitized and influenced by it. So we have to know social media is very, very, very dangerous. It is not good for our kids. The experts now are begging us not to put our kids on social media until at least 16. Like they're begging us, stop putting your kids on social media. First of all, they're gonna see hardcore porn. All social media leads to porn, and they can be contacted by strangers. And there's just so much cyberbullying, and they're being overly sexualized by social media. And so this is common. This is what's happening in high schools. So in high school, kids may ask other kids, hey, I'll pay you, or I dare you to send me a photo of your feet. And so many kids will do that, and it'll go around the whole school, and like it's kind of funny and stuff like that. But then what's happening, and sometimes the ask comes from a predator, and then they up the ante. And so once kids get desensitized and used to receiving money for their photos, they are more prone to send more photos and more photos and more photos, especially if they are after affirmation and or money. And so this is the exchange rate. This is happening in high schools. Again, even if your child isn't doing this, they are seeing it and they're being desensitized by it. So this is sex trafficking, right? This is sex trafficking from the bedroom. Remember, sex act with the minor is commercialized. That's sex trafficking. They haven't left anywhere. Mom's in the kitchen, preparing their healthy, gluten-free meal while the child is out there, like, making porn. Like, that's the world we live in right now, and something isn't right. A shocking number of under 10-year-olds, so they have their own device, they have access to social media, and they're meeting people who are grooming them and training them to sending pictures and videos. This is not natural behavior. It is learned behavior. It is taught, and so our kids are being taught by people online. So we have to step in. We have to do more. And again, we are up against our culture. Our culture is highly pornified. We have to realize we live in a toxic culture, and our kids are being influenced by it. So a pornographer, someone who produces porn videos, says the girls come porn ready. Like, what? They've been so desensitized and groomed and brainwashed that they arrive, they know what to do already. And it's happening with those high school challenges, sending those pictures around and stuff. So we have to recognize that our kids are seeing it, they're being desensitized to it, their music, the videos, the media. So we have to really be aware of what it is that they're watching, seeing, and who is speaking into their lives. And if it's not us, then it will be our culture. You do not want your culture educating our kids on their value, how they get their value, how they use their bodies, even what sex is. Do not let the culture tell them what it is. How many of you, show of hands, have heard of OnlyFans? Okay, fair a number. Okay. Good. So, what do you know about it? Tell me about OnlyFans. Like, what is it for people that don't know? Just like shout out a description or a word. Prostitution on steroids online. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? User-created content, yeah, right. Or let's say user-created porn. Yeah, it started out with a good idea, started out during COVID, and you could subscribe to your favorite movie star or celebrity, and you can watch them make muffins, and you could like DM them like, oh, what's your muffin recipe? And it was started that way to be interactive. So kind of a good idea, trying to build connection during COVID. And wouldn't you know it, it turned pornified, and 90% of it now is porn. And it's basically anybody can make their own porn channel and maybe make some money out of it. So that's what has happened to it. It is a total lie. It's a total scam. But it has reached our young girls, our teens. They have bought into it. And so many teen girls now in high school can't wait to turn 18 so they can make their own porn channel. I know. I know half the stuff I'm saying, I'm like, is this for real? But if I didn't do the research, I wouldn't know. This is happening. It's common. You go into a high school and you'll hear the girls say this: only ugly girls get degrees or diplomas. Because the hot ones, apparently, can get filthy rich on OnlyFans. That's what OnlyFans is telling them. It is not true. It is a total lie. So right now, there's about 3 million what they call content creators. I call them women making porn. It's not content. Let's not, dumb it down. Let's not lie. Let's not sugarcoat it. So sadly, 3 women, mostly women, a couple guys on there, are creating their own porn. and they think they can get absolutely rich. And a few have. In fact, 300 of the 3 million make over $1 million a year. So I had to do that math. Percentage-wise, that's 0.0001% are making more than $1 million. And yet, 3 million of them are working their literally butts off to try to get enough content out there that they will get to that top level. And in the meantime, they're prostituting themselves. They're selling their souls online, thinking that they're going to get rich, and they're not. The average wage of a online producer, or I'll say pornographer, is $180 a month. So 0.0001% are making over $1 million. The remaining 2.7 million are making $180 a month, and they're working their butts off. And they're expected by OnlyFans to make 20 unique videos a day. I struggle with one Instagram post a day. Like, it's so hard to do one post. Like, it takes me forever, right? And to make a reel, oh, that's so hard. 20 unique videos a day. They'll spend all day. And the sad thing is, they're not getting well, I don't know if it's sad. It's sad if they got money. It's sad when they don't get money, but they're trying so hard and they're not getting anywhere. And in the meantime, they're selling themselves. They're selling their soul. And if over a year or two, usually these women realize this is not worth my time, and they feel like crap. It doesn't take long for them to feel totally empty, and they decide to delete and get off. That content is out there forever. How sad. It's out there forever. And another crazy thing, which you need to know if you're talking to anybody that is thinking about an OnlyFans account because they think it's a good idea. So if you have even 100 subscribers, so they get subscribers that pay pay-per-view. That sounds a lot like what I talked about in the Philippines, but they can message you and ask you for specific things. These women are trying to make 20 videos a day. They do not have time to chat with each creepy subscriber. Guess who is chatting with these men? Their husband? No. Okay, I think AI would be less traumatic. They've hired out to impoverished people, mainly in the Philippines. They're mainly Filipino men, are getting paid $1 to $5 an hour to sext these creepy men, which there are 220 million of them. Talk about globalization of a big problem. And so the interesting thing about OnlyFans, and this is something that is really relevant to us as the church, do you know why the men are going to OnlyFans and paying when they could go to Pornhub? It's all free. It's like almost the same content, except for there's probably less violence. But why would they pay on OnlyFans when they can get it for free on YouTube, Snapchat, or Pornhub? Any ideas? Say again? Interactivity. Yes. They want connection. That's so sad. They're going there because they think they can chat with somebody, and there's a connection.
In the last days, the love of the people shall wax cold.
I didn't catch that. Yeah, so that's really sad. So they deserve connection. They should get connection, but unfortunately, they're not going to get it here. And so that's something we have to recognize, and we have to educate our kids. OnlyFans is softly influencing a generation to idealize becoming sex workers. If you work with teenage girls, be on the lookout for this type of thinking. Okay, real quickly, I'm going to get into trafficking, into the sex trade. If you go out onto the streets, you're interacting with women who may be sexually exploited or are homeless and are very, very at risk. So very quickly here, I'm going to talk about the boyfriend experience, which is the most common form of sex trafficking. And so like I said, these men hang out where the girls are hanging out. They're making friends. They're chit-chatting, meeting that unmet need. And the reason I chose this image particularly from this movie, I know it's dated for some people, but Patrick Swayze here really symbolized to me when I was trying to think of an image for a pimp boyfriend trafficker. Reason I chose him is because he was fully in control of that situation. He had all the power, all the knowledge. He was like the most wanted guy in that room. He was cool, and all the girls probably hoping he would ask them to dance with him. And he spots the one girl in that room that was the most invisible, right? The one that was unseen, that had no value, that was kind of like this, like, I carried a watermelon. Like, she was that one that was in the corner that nobody acknowledged. And he saw that and he zeroed into her. And that's exactly how our traffickers work online. They're so good at what they do that they get these vulnerable women. Remember, almost all sexually abused as children, which makes them extremely vulnerable. They get them to fall in love with them. That's how trafficking starts. They get them to fall in love with them. Okay, I'm going to show you a video of this pimp sharing how he does it. And again, it's very educational. So here we go. Listen to his words.
How do you get a girl to fall in love with you and get a girl to be willing to do this?
It just happens. Like, most of these girls, like I said, they're broken. It's not hard. You just gotta answer their call. You get in there, you find the crack. Like, some are drugs, some are just, they need to hear I love you.
But if they just want someone to love them, this guy's not talking about loving her.
Oh, I know, but that's what she believes. It's the illusion. Be there for them. Tell them what they want to hear. And you tell them, well, we need to put money away. I'm gonna do what I do. See, I'm putting my 50 in. You have to do your 50. So there's another way you can have sex with guys. But don't worry, I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna go and sell drugs if that's what I'm doing on the side, or I'm gonna be making money. I'll be here to take care of you. At the end of the night, you're home with me. Every girl's had that fantasy wedding in that house with a pink fence. You sell it to her. She'll do it.
Why will she do it?
Because you just sold her a dream. Some of these girls are broken. It fixes them.
What fixes them?
Knowing someone out there cares. The illusion of it, right? Me, I don't let that happen. Because I'm not going to sit and lie to them and say, oh, I love you. I don't. I love my money.
And would you call that being a pimp?
No, I don't know what you would call it. I'm not a pimp. A manager.
You guys, find the cracks. They need to hear I love you. They need to know someone out there cares. Like, that's us. That's got to be the church. That's got to be us as Christians. Like, that should not be a pimp. That should be us. But again, these women and men come from vulnerable situations. There's a lot of push factors involved. It makes them very, very vulnerable to these lies, the selling of the dream, as he said directly. This happened to Madison, just to bring it close to home, from Nova Scotia. And her mom didn't know a thing about trafficking. It's not her mom's fault, but Madison had all the indications, all those push factors, but the eye cannot see what the mind does not know. Okay, the eyes cannot see what the mind does not know. So if we don't know what the signs of sex trafficking our kids are at risk. If our children don't know the signs of sex trafficking, they are at risk. They cannot see online what's happening unless they've already been educated about it. That's why education is so important. So Madison had all the signs, all the push factors, started dating this guy the mom wasn't really sure about. Turns out later this guy is a pimp, he is a trafficker, he is a gang member. And by the time that her mom found Madison, unfortunately, she only found her when she was killed at the hands of her John, and that happened here in Edmonton. Only 6 to 7% of girls get out of the sex trade. It's very, very violent. Most will end their lives in that. It's ended for them. Trigger warning on the next image. You may not want to see it. I do want to show you. Her mom sent me this photo. This is what her pimp boyfriend did to her when she resisted. This is what keeps women trapped in the sex trade and afraid to leave. This is why frontliners can't say, like, oh, do you want to exit? Do you want to get out? They're so afraid of leaving. These pimps have so much control over their brains, and the women know it. And so they will not say, yes, I'd like to leave, or yes, I need help, or yes, I'm being controlled, because they live in fear. So again, it's just a picture of her face. It's after a severe beating, so don't look if you don't want to see this next picture. She was told by the doctor, they did take her into Emerge after that, some of her girlfriends. That was in Grand Prairie. The doctor said one more punch would have ended your life. And then the doctor says, would you like to press charges? No, they're terrified. So education is key. The eyes cannot see what the mind does not know. We need to educate our frontliners. One more quick thing, and then we'll start to wind up. So I've talked a lot about the girls and the dangers and the risks for girls. You have to understand our boys are also being harmed significantly on social media. And so what happens with our teenage boys, largely 10 to 18 years old, is that they start chatting with beautiful, hot, attractive, flirtatious girls on social media. And teenage boys do not have the brakes installed in their brain. None of our youth do. We have to understand that we have to be their brakes, but they do not have any brakes. They're all gas pedal for sure. If this hot girl is sending you a nude, and you're in your room, it's 2 a.m., you think no one's gonna know, and our boys are responding and sending a nude back, because that's how their brain works. Like, we get it. That's understandable. Unfortunately, what's happening, and this is on the rise across the developed country, like in alarming numbers. So what happens as soon as they send that photo is by this time, this person on the other side knows where they go to school, they have their friend list, they may know where their parents work, and usually they are gangs. Right now it's largely out of Nigeria, but it's also been seen across Canada and the Philippines as well. Location doesn't really matter, but just to say it's coming from overseas. And then they start with absolutely brutal, relentless harassment. Brutal harassment. If you don't send me money, I will send this to all your classmates. I will send this to your hockey team. I will email this to your dad if you don't send. And then if they try to send some money, you need to send more. It's never enough. You need to send another 1,000. You have 10 minutes to send me $1,000, or I will send this to your whole class list. And these poor boys, they're just terrified, and they're embarrassed, and they're full of shame. And sadly, they haven't been told that, honey, if you do this, please come see me. We will get help. There's organizations out there that exist to help you and to get this content removed. Many have not been told. Many end their lives. Like too many. This is just 2 examples. There's hundreds. And it's so devastating because it happened in their bedroom. Parents are down the hall thinking their kid is sleeping. And this is happening to our boys. So we have to educate them. It's never too late, never a bad time to come and talk to us. With Daniel here, from the time of the first text to the time he took his life, 3 hours. Parents had no idea. How would they? They're just texting. So this really targeting our boys, you guys. And we have to have the conversations before they're in a situation where they feel so alone and they think that that's an option. It's never an option, but we need to tell them that. And so, I've got some literature here. Like, I'm not going to spend too much time on what you can do. I have a huge list on my website, Escalate the Conversation. I have suggestions for you. I have conversations you can have by age. Again, I've printed some here so you can grab some stuff right away. But I have a lot of suggestions. I have a lot of resources, talking to your kids, talking to your teens, those who struggle with porn, like you name it, I've got it there. Please go have a look. But what I want to narrow this down to is we can do all the filters, we can do all the prevention, we can talk to our kids, we can do all the things, we can put in the boundaries, and we have to do all those things 100%. But you need to know these smartphones and iPads are designed to addict your children. They are designed by nature to hook them, pull them in, and give them so much dopamine that they lose all interest in real life. And we see it happening, don't we? We see the kids not aware of anything going on. It's all here. It's all right here. And nothing can compete with that level of dopamine. That is how they're designed. That is why the designers do not let their own children have these devices. Do you think Steve Jobs gave his kids access to the iPad? No way. They know what we only are learning about now. And so I'm begging you on behalf of your children, first of all, delay giving them a device as long as possible. The experts are begging for high school. Delay giving them their own device till high school. Let their brain develop. Give their brain a chance. Give their childhood a chance. Like, the minute you give that, nothing can compete with that. And that is neurological. That's science, right? And so delay as much as humanly possible. And I have lists and suggestions here for you. And then there's also saying no social media till 16. Middle school has enough drama. You don't need to add in sexting and getting, threats. Girls are getting threatened if they don't send a nude that they're going to get raped. Like, it happening during school, in school hours. Like, this is happening so much. And so we have to, as a collective, it's not enough if one family does it, because then, that kid feels left out. Like, we got to, as a community, as a collective, and I think it needs to start with the church and Christians. We're going to say, we're going to be countercultural. We're not going to follow the crowd like everybody's doing. We need to protect childhood, and we need to fight for them. And even if it means that your kids are angry at you, someday they will thank you. I promise. Someday they will. You're just buying them time and letting their brain finish developing. Okay, so please, if you've already done it, you've already given devices, it's never too late. Come up with a plan, make sure your partner's on board, and then you're going to present some of these stats to your kids and be like, you know what, mommy and daddy didn't know these things when we gave you this device, and we're going to make some changes in our household. And you pull back. And if it's young kids and they're used to a ton of screen time, you're going to have to do a detox. It's worth it. 30 days, you can rewire their brain. God made our brains malleable. Like, what? He knew this would happen. In 30 days, anybody, even someone with a severe porn addiction or our children addicted to, Peppa Pig, can have their brain rewired in 30 days. Like, thank you, God. That is such a gift. And so just to say, it's never too late. No matter where you're at in this conversation, it is never too late to make some changes, to talk to somebody, get some help, get some accountability, support each other. I won't go into it because it's a lot, but I have printed prayer lists, which I know you guys are a house of prayer, so I have prayer lists for like every part of this